This is a lecture on the Earth's resources, focusing on non-renewable resources. There are two categories of Earth's resources. We have non-renewable. This is when their supply runs out and they can't be replaced. Examples would be coal, oil, and minerals. Non-renewable can be replaced within a human lifetime. Examples: trees, air, and water. A mineral resource may be metals or may not be metals. An ore is a deposit of minerals in which metals or nonmetals can be removed profitably. The key word here is profitably. If you can't make money off of it, it's not an ore. Some examples may be hematite and magnetite, which are used to get iron. Bauxite, which is in the picture here, is used to get aluminum. Halite is salt, and quartz is used to make glass. There are different ways that ores can be deposited. First way is through magma. Here, heavy metals such as chromium, nickel, and lead will sink to the bottom of the magma. Once that magma cools, it'll form a deposit. The second way is through contact metamorphism. Some examples we have lead, copper, and zinc will form at contact metamorphism areas. Remember, contact metamorphism is when magma heats the surrounding rock. We can also get veins and lodes. Vein is a hot mineral solution spread through many small cracks in the rock, and valuable minerals are deposited. Here in the picture is a vein of quartz. So a water with lots of quartz in it squeezed through a crack in the rock and the quartz was left behind. If you have a lot of veins in one area, we would call that a lode, and this is where we get the term mother lode. Next up, we have placer deposits. Here, when rock breaks down through weathering and erosion, native elements such as gold might be released and enter a stream. Downstream, when the current gets weak, they are deposited. This creates a placer deposit. Here we have some veins, and we have a lot of veins, so that creates a mother lode. Through the weathering and erosion process, they will be released from the rock and enter the streams. Downstream, on the inside bends of the current where the velocity is much slower than the outside, the gold will deposit, forming a placer deposit. There are countless ways that we use minerals. One way is through gemstones. These are rare minerals that display a brilliance, luster. Also, they come in really neat colors. Building materials are used such as gypsum and calcite. Minerals are non-renewable resources that are being consumed at an alarming rate, and this rate is increasing each year because we have an increasing population. Eventually we will run out. Mineral conservation is a way to delay this inevitable fate. Let's take a moment to review. If you need to pause this video, you may. First of all, what's an ore? An ore is a mineral deposit from which a metal or nonmetal can be profitably extracted, which means we can mine it and make money. Heat and hot fluids flowing from magma change the surrounding rock. Dissolved minerals form a band of ore around the rock. Next, what are some uses of the metals gold, silver, platinum, and copper? Jewelry and electrical wire. Explain what is meant by renewable versus non-renewable resources. Renewable resources can be replaced as they are used. Non-renewable resources cannot. Fossil fuels such as coal, petroleum, and natural gas form from the remains of living organisms. These fossil fuels are rich in organic material, such as carbon. Hydrocarbons are rich compounds of carbon and hydrogen. These contain a lot of energy obtained from sunlight by plants and animals which lived millions and millions of years ago. So here is petroleum. We've got crude oil. And this is an oil pump commonly found in the Midwest of the United States. This is an oil rig found in the ocean. Here they drill oil deep in the ocean floor. There's a lot of these in the Gulf of Mexico. Coal is a fossil fuel that formed in swamps. Because there's very little oxygen for microorganisms to decompose organic material, a lot of the organic material is left behind. Coal forms from plants that have been carbonized. Carbonization is a process in which bacteria partially decompose plants, which release methane and carbon dioxide. As an end result, only carbon remains. There are different variations of coal. First, we get peat. This is partially broken down plant material. When you compact peat, we get lignite, which is a brown coal. When you have lignite being compacted, we get bituminous coal, which is a sedimentary rock, and this is a soft coal. This is the most abundant type. And last, when you morph bituminous coal, so you add heat and pressure, we get anthracite. This is the hardest type of coal. So here we have peat, which is broken down plant material. If you add pressure to peat, you're going to get lignite, which is our brown coal. If you compact lignite, you get the sedimentary rock bituminous coal. And if you add heat and pressure to bituminous coal, you get anthracite coal. Petroleum and natural gas form similar to the way coal does, only it forms in the ocean. Petroleum is a liquid, natural gas is a gas. When oceanic microorganisms die, so little tiny organisms in the ocean, they're going to sink and settle on the bottom of the ocean floor. Since there's very little oxygen on the bottom, the remains don't get decomposed like bacteria. This is similar to a swamp. As they get buried, pressure is going to increase, and this will turn them into a liquid petroleum. If heat and pressure become extreme, the petroleum will turn into a natural gas. Petroleum and natural gas can seep through permeable rock, which is rock in which liquids and gases can flow through. However, they're going to get trapped by impermeable rock, which does not allow them to get through. So this diagram shows how natural gas and oil can get trapped. Sandstone is a permeable rock, which means it can flow through it. Shale is an impermeable rock, so it can't flow through it. So this shale rock is considered a cap rock because it stops the oil from rising to the surface. So all we have to do is drill down and we can pump out the oil. Here's the breakdown of how we use some of our fuel. For coal, 71% is used for electricity. 13% is used for coal exports. For petroleum, 38.6% is used for gasoline, 38% is used for other fuels, 13% for heating oils such as kerosene. The term crude oil refers to an unrefined petroleum. So this is sort of the raw crude oil that we bring right out of the ground. Some advantages for using coal is it's cheap and efficient. Some disadvantages for using coal is some environmental problems, such as it'll create acid rain, it can release carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and cause lots of erosion in the mining process. Fossil fuels are a non-renewable resource. With our current consumption rate of coal, we will run out in about 200 years. The problem with this figure is that our population is increasing every year. So our consumption rate will increase every year. So this 200-year estimation is probably too large. In terms of petroleum, scientists have estimated that we've discovered already about 75% of the existing petroleum. These are some of the ways that fossil fuels can affect the environment. Through the strip mining process, this can leave deep ditches and is a source of acid runoff. Some of the rocks that are exposed have acidic properties, so when it rains, the water will dissolve the acidic properties of the rock, and this acid will run into the streams. This will lower the pH of the stream, causing aquatic life to be extinguished. This will cause acid shock, and the plants and animals cannot handle the dramatic drop in the pH, so they will cease to exist. Air pollution is caused. This can be through the burning of the fossil fuels, which will emit carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas. It can also emit sulfur dioxide, which causes acid rain. You can also get a lot of particulate matter through the mining process. We can also have oil spills through transporting the oil. Here's an image of strip mining. So they take the land and completely strip it clean of the vegetation. This will create lots of erosion. You see all the muddy water, all the muddy roads. This will also create a lot of acid runoff. Let's take a moment to review. First, what are the three types of coal? Lignite, bituminous, and anthracite. Bituminous is a sedimentary rock. Anthracite is a metamorphic. Next, describe the kinds of rock structures in which petroleum reservoirs are formed. Petroleum forms in permeable rock and is trapped by impermeable rock. Are fossil fuels renewable or non-renewable? The answer is non-renewable. Why would manufacturing less plastic help conserve petroleum? Well, petroleum is actually used in making process. So if we use less plastic, we will use less petroleum. Nuclear fusion is splitting of nuclei into two atoms. This will release the energy stored in the nucleus. This process uses uranium-235, which is a non-renewable resource. Inside the reactor, we have rods are bombarded with neutrons. This will split the nuclei. This will release a lot of energy, hence a lot of heat. We have water pumping around the fuel rods that will carry away the heat. This will generate steam, which is used to turn a turbine. A turbine is a giant magnet wrapped inside copper. When that magnet moves, that moves the electrons. Electricity is just moving electrons. Some disadvantages: we create a lot of radioactive waste, which it remains radioactive for a very long time. So if a meltdown occurs, a lot of radioactive material is released. Another disadvantage is that uranium-235 is a non-renewable resource. Another disadvantage is that it's expensive to build. However, some advantages would include that it's very cheap once it's built. And if there's no accidents, there's no pollution. Here's how fission works. You have a neutron that hits a uranium-235 atom. That neutron will split it into two. Each of those will release a neutron. So now we have 3 neutrons flying. Those 3 neutrons will hit 3 uraniums. And they break into 2 and they each release a neutron. So this starts a chain reaction which is exponential. Here's where we have our fuel rods with the uranium when they're bombarded. Here we've got water surrounding the uranium. That water will heat up and turn into steam. The steam is used to turn a turbine which generates electricity. Nuclear fusion is the exact opposite process as fission. So fusion, you add atoms. So hydrogen plus a hydrogen will give you a helium. Humans can't do this. So far, the only place we know this occurs is in stars. Stars will fuse 2 hydrogen into helium. Fusion doesn't start until temperatures reach about 15 million degrees Celsius. This is why humans can't do it. Okay, let's take a minute to review. What is the naturally occurring element that must be used for nuclear fission? The answer is uranium-235. This formed from deposits of natural uranium. Next question. What occurs during a fission reaction? A chain reaction of uranium-235 atoms being split by neutrons. Through which kind of nuclear reaction does the sun produce energy? The answer is fusion. Last question. Can the waste products of nuclear fission be safely deposited in rivers and streams? The answer is no, because it's radioactive, and the radioactive material can harm plants and animals. It's also dangerous for hundreds of thousands of years. This concludes our lecture on non-renewable resources.